It's good to have you all back here today. If you look at the program, you will see that we have a panel session which will be beginning now. It is on digital asset management. So I would like to call on the chair of the panel, Dr. Salim Al Shuaili, who is a senior executive and expert at the National Program for Space, Artificial Intelligence and Advanced Technology. So I'd now like to call on our fellow panelists, starting with Mr. Francis Bellevance, who is a pre-sales business analyst at Innovatech. I would now like to introduce the fellow panelists for this session who are online. So firstly, I'll introduce Mr. Cecil Sunder, who is the Director of Data and AI Solutions at Intelligent Cloud, part of the Microsoft Corporation from the USA. Thank you, Cecil.
Thanks for having me, and a pleasure connecting with all you guys.
Then we have Mr. Murali Krishnan, who is the co-founder and CPO of, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this right, Rapl Inc, USA. Hi, Mr. Murali.
Good day to everybody. I'm Murali Krishnan. I'm the co-founder and CPO for Rapl. We kind of shorten it. It's a pleasure to meet everybody here. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And our final panelist, Mr. Rami Ayoob, Chief Digital Information Officer at Spark Tech Solutions from Bahrain.
Thanks, Amr, and good morning to everyone. And wish to have a wonderful discussion today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rami. Okay, thank you, everyone. So we'll now begin the session. Thank you all for being here. I'll now pass it on to the chairman of the panel, Dr. Salim Al Shuaili.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As'ad Allah sabahkum bil khair. Good morning, everyone here. Thank you for the panelists here from overseas, I think from USA and from Bahrain, Mr. Cecil, Mr. Murali, and Mr. Rami, and Francis here from Oman. You are welcome. I think you are all from the industrial. I wish we can hear also, we have some from the academician also to give his opinion here. So if he is willing, that Dr. Adel Bousaidi, he's here in the hall. So I wish he can come to the stage and also to give his opinion regarding this one from the academic. We need your opinion, not asking question. So session about the digital assets management. We know about the asset management. Asset management, we can divide it into two things, is physical and digital, or tangible and intangible. So tangible things is we can say that's table, chairs, whatever that related to any organizations. We can call it an assets and it's tangible, but intangible, like for example, data, softwares, application, licensing, these things. And we have seen that most of the organizations in the world now, they are facing troubles or facing issues in tracking their assets, the tangible assets. So, of course, do they care and do they feel it's crucial for them, the intangible assets, even when we consider about digital assets, in anything that in digital format, like for example, logos, application, any softwares, data itself, and anything related, I can say intangible. But the more things is data things. So do they feel it's really unimportant? And if we want to define the digital asset include, but are not exclusive to digital document, audible contents, motion pictures, and other relevant digital data that are currently in circulation or will be stored in digital appliances, of course, such as personal computers, laptops, portable media players, tablets, data storage devices, and also the telecommunication things. Now, even the voice or the phone calls are stored in data. That's why we call it big data. So is it really important to the organizations? Giving here the mic to Mr. Cecil to ask him a question, to talk about how big data and data platform has evolved for digital assets management?
All right, that's a very good question to start with. So you talked about speech, right? The data that you've been saving in the telephonic conversation or call centers. That's, first of all, let me tell you, that's very important piece of data that you can analyze for understanding customer intent and an opportunity to upsell and cross-sell using cognitive technologies. But I'll start with why data is, as a whole, is important, right? Data is the new currency. If you think about data, all types of data that include your digital assets you just talked about, whether it's a speech or PDF or video files or images, these are all very important to target specific customers or to understand what the customer intent is to monetize these assets, right? So if you think about while you're watching YouTube or you're any social media, you're getting recommendations or you're even purchasing online products. You're getting recommendations of what to purchase, what your next best action would be. And these are predicted based on analyzing your digital assets data, based on the data you create, the touch you interact with those devices and all those things. So it's, in other words, you can use data to grow revenue, especially your top line revenue. Number two, to improve operational efficiencies, increase productivity and customer service. And companies, right, that leverage their digital assets and deliver insights to the customer gain, number one, competitive advantage, right? And they can plan for growth. It's so important to understand why these data assets are critical in this era of digital transformation, right? Across business, you take any industry vertical, whether it's retail, manufacturing, or healthcare, we produce so much variety of data and digital assets in the organization, which are going to be very valuable. If we can integrate the data and analyze it and create insights for greater good of the company or for the customers, right? So modern data estate should have the ability now, data estate as a platform should have the ability to bring both these unstructured data, in other words, you call digital data, as well as structured data together in a single platform. It's important to have this integrated data platform and also bring this big data in to create those insights for the organization, right? So the data platform per se is evolving into big data, digital assets, that unstructured data, right? And then data warehouse, integrating it into one common data platform, bringing such separated compute and storage. Think about a storage which can be cheap, but compute that can create insights on these digital assets to produce insights to grow your top line, improve your productivity, and improve your customer satisfaction. That's how data platform is evolving. All right.
Thank you very much for this precise answer for this one. Mr. Murali, we know that about the big data is structured and unstructured data. And now currently we can see that most of the organizations are struggling in maintaining and tracking the tangible assets for them. So regarding the intangible, for example, the data and the big data, can you give us some insights with regards to understructured documents management in a big data assets environment?
Wonderful. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here. As Cecil mentioned earlier, data platform is a mechanism to bring wide range of data together. And when we talk about data, often it's easy to think about just the structured data, something that you deal with in a spreadsheet and managing that in a large scale. However, as you and many of us dealt with, we deal with documents. This could be Word documents, spreadsheets, slides, and even what we may not think of documents, but media documents like audio, video, webinars, and movies and the likes of it as well. All of these tend to have both large volume as well as a lot of details, which don't lend themselves to be put in a spreadsheet. However, the good news is over the last almost several decades, and it has accelerated. People have figured out how to take any document and turn them into a collection of small data elements. So if you imagine a spreadsheet, like your business management spreadsheet, your leader is looking for, how did the company perform this quarter? How did it perform compared to the last quarter? How did it perform compared to the last year? And so all these are probably locked up in one or more spreadsheets, and somebody needs to pull them together. Alongside, there is narrative documents that talk about how did the performance work qualitatively. What product launches, what marketing launches, what partnership launches, all led to better results or poorer results. So that qualitative document is sitting away from your spreadsheet. And in the enterprises, as we go through digital transformation, it's very critical to be able to pull both the structured data from spreadsheets and databases, as well as integrate that with the unstructured data coming from these documents. So one can actually get a holistic picture of what is going on. So that's just a glimpse of one example. Another example, as you would relate to very closely, when you think about oil and gas industry, there's a lot of exploration going on. Often the data is about the geographical systems, geographical information systems, which comes with geographical coordinates, the maps, the terrain, the type of depth at which you need to drill, the type of oil that you get, the type of gas you get, how do you refine. So there is both structured data there, as well as quite a lot of unstructured data about the mining and the exploration reports that you have. So that set of data again needs to be brought together and be cohesively put together for managing that in a complete fashion as well. So those are two examples, from financial industry, from oil and gas industry, and I can keep going on about various places where one has to deal with these unstructured documents.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Now let us switch from the virtual one to the physical one, to Mr. Francis from Innovatic. Yesterday, I think one question was fired that regarding the data or the data centers providers, we cannot say that they are monopolizing the data, but because according to the governance and to the policy, they cannot spread and distribute the data. Of course, in this regards, even the researcher or any innovative people cannot implement the technology, for example, the current technology, artificial intelligence or other technologies without any data. So in Oman, because as far you are here in one of the companies here in Oman, how you feel about the data since it is intangible and it's really, does it has a value to other customer other than the official entities?
Well, so for us, we operate in PDO and we do a lot of data integration. And to us, our bread and butter as a company, as Innovatech, is absolutely the integration of all this data and using and generating insight from this data. So I think they are, there's no question about it. I think you start to see a bit more challenges in Oman when it comes to SME and elevating the data and using the data for their, let's say, for example, websites. I think the level of maturity is not necessarily the same as the international standards. And that also goes together with culture, because if you look at, for example, websites, I saw many people yesterday complaining about the cost of hosting. In perhaps a more international context, you would deploy a website and you wouldn't necessarily worry about that cost because you expect an immediate return. You expect customers to be generated as a result of this website that you deploy. Whereas here in Oman, I've worked for so many companies over the years where we put that effort, we put that investment, deploy website, deploy solutions to interact with our clients beyond the straightforward approach. And we don't see that same return that we would see internationally.
Thank you. You know that the value of the data or big data in 21, it's around $67 billion, and it is expected to reach in 25 by $90 billion. How you see this? The value it's really reflect. This is globally. How you see the value here in Oman? Because since you are working in oil and gas, so you feel the importance of the data. So what about the value here? It reflects the same here in Oman?
I think more than perhaps many places in the world, I think PDO is one of the most advanced when it comes to extracting value from their data. The reason why we exist as a company is because of the effort that they've put in over the years and investing into the development of the different tools that they have. The organizations like PDO are extremely large. They generate incredible amount of data that they have to manage on a day-to-day basis. When they invest whatever they've invested in the past few years, it was perhaps difficult in the short term to see the returns, but now they can see it. They can see it through platforms like ours, but we're not alone. And my key takeaway would be to really generate the most value from data. It's always about integration. We see it in the large organizations, large oil and gas, but even beyond and in other industries, I'm sure. It's the main struggle that everybody has to overcome to really maximize and optimize the usage of the data.
Thank you for this insight, Mr. Francis. Coming back to Mr. Rami Ayoob, thank you. He's joining us from Bahrain. So if I'm asking that, even in the same circle, that what is the digital asset in the big data ecosystem, and how do you manage it for a large corporation? We said that at the beginning that now for tangible assets, the organization, either large or the big or the small organization, they are struggling in maintaining and managing their assets. So how about for the big data or their data?
Thanks, Doctor, for this introduction. And I would like to welcome the panelists also for this useful information they do provide. So as we are facing today, we are in an era of digital transformation. How to leverage from the technology to manipulate data and to manipulate another processing on this data. So as you explain, assets might be tangible or non-tangible. So any tangible or any asset taking the format of digital is called digital asset. So here we need to identify for any entity or any organization, they should look to the root before they establish a project or they establish their entity. What type of information, what type of data they are going to process it, what they're exactly their digital asset. So here they should understand this data, how it is moving from one place to another place, where should be stored, how they build their strategy on this given information. So digital asset can be in different format, as explained earlier. It might be a video, a document, file, software, any non-tangible asset. So in each tool or in each these assets, there is a way how to control, the way how to process this information. For example, today, with this open TV, IPTV, you can see the videos from YouTube, Netflix. So they have their own platform to control that asset, they process it. They built a lot of technology, such like AI. They understand the audience of their videos, what they are looking for, the categories, who's attending, what type of search are going there. So they are building a lot of processes, a lot of analysis based on these digital assets. Also, you have a file, documents, different types. So each platform and each asset, there is a way how to process this information. So here we need to be also very careful where we are dealing and manipulating this information. What type of information should be shared? What type of information shall be executed? Okay, for such enterprises, they have an ERP system, how they are planning their information and how the information are stored, to whom it be accessed. So here we coming to different level about how to provide this information and to whom. So we have identity access management, privilege access management. So a well planning, a well understanding okay, of the direction, where should be the information should be, and how to manipulate this one, and how to build a story about the information and this soft asset is a very high risk while we are processing. So today, as you see, we are in pandemic. Okay, the case now is allowing us to have virtual meeting. We are meeting from different location at different time. So this digital is solve a lot of issues to us. Okay, while we are now transaction the information between different region. So pandemic forced us to go in different model. So it's become now a fact for us and a strategy for all countries, all organizations in different type, different size, to consider digital collaboration as a new era, as a new future for us. So today we are not necessarily to physically to present anywhere or to exchange physical information and document, file, contracts. So all this now becoming today online. We did before, as I worked several times about a project. So different resources, different persons are attending at the same time. They do online co-editings for such documents, such information. They transform the products while they are moving in different location. Marketing tools as well. Okay, today the products, okay, we are presented in different way, in different channel, using the social channel in different types. So here again, digital asset has come as a fate for all of us. So we need to plan it in a proper way. We need to design it in the right direction. So today we are building our strategy based on the right correction and the right resources. So decision making from management or head of departments, based on this information, they are going to the next level, to the next strategy, how they are moving. They are planning for marketplace, which product should be in certain market, based on the information they are getting, they are collecting. They are processing this data and come out and predict what should be done next. And not only in business, today we see the news, okay? We are predicting what will happen next. So information or digital information, it's become a real asset, okay? This is exactly the fourth industrial revolution flavor, how the data is become as a core or a root of our life.
Thank you, Mr. Rami. Thank you very much. Yes, as we know that the data is becoming the fuel or the future fuel, even the fuel and the empowering of all the fourth industrial revolution technologies. And you have touched really two important things that regarding the strategy, building a strategy for maintaining digital assets, and also policy and governance, governancing this asset management or digital asset management. We know that for building a strategy for maintaining and managing any assets is a tangible assets. It is easy, and we know how to track it if there is a will, of course, if there is a will and wish from the organization to do this one. You can track anything. You can track the chair where it is exactly, the life period for it, everything. But regarding the data, how to building a strategy and to governance it, we know there is no a time period for a data. We can say 30 years, 100 years. So how the system is tracking these data if there is no update, no touch in this data? Mr. Murali, in this regards, for building a strategy and maintaining the digital assets, also policies and governance, what are the critical digital skills for professionals to work with this area?
Thank you, Doctor. As Rami was talking about from a company perspective, it's very important to have a strategy in place, and strategy often starts at the leadership. So when you ask about critical skills in an organization, we start with the leaders. Leaders need to be aware of data, the importance of data, and the value that they can derive from the data. That's very critical. And part of that journey is to educate themselves, not only about what is inside the company, inside the organization, but also educate about what is going on in the industry. Now, Rami gave us several examples of what's going on in the industry with respect to the data realm, AI, and the emerging technologies. So education is not only for the leaders, but also you need to turn it and bring it to everybody in the organization, preferably. Part of that skill development process, we have this model that we call DSP, which partly stands for Digital Skills for Professionals. Partly it's also about data, security, and privacy. All three go together as a package, if you may. We start life with data, and as Rami was alluding to it, it's very important to have understanding about identity and protection of data, and safely and securely sharing the data as appropriate, both at a granular level, but more importantly, at an aggregate level. There are then considerations for privacy. And as you've probably seen in Europe, which started this with the GDPR, Global Data Protection Rights, it's very important for us to embrace such models. And every country, every sovereign has a particular approach to solving this governance policies, and a company, an organization needs to adopt to what is appropriate for that realm of operation, the country and the region of operation. So that's data, security, and privacy are three big pillars to enable in the organization as part of skill development, and nurturing that and turning them into practices that one can put in motion. And when you think about practices, one of the things that I encourage in my organizations, and I've seen it work very well in many organizations that I studied, is be ready for surprises. Because we don't know how the shape and size of the data is going to look like. It's sort of somewhat unpredictable. And so it's not like any other software project where there's a high degree of predictability. One has to be willing to learn from the data as much as data is going to help us learn. We need to be able to nimbly and in an agile manner adopt to applying some principles and practices and systems to navigate through this thing. So any data project for that matter, if it starts out as a 5-year project, that's a very tough one. Any data, in contrast, a data project that starts out as a week-by-week experiment where we learn and gradually and steadily we'll adopt a better platform, the journey will likely yield better results, because we're going to be learning from the data, and we will learn, do we need to aggregate at what level of granularity, and how do we apply different technologies, because data technologies are evolving very, very rapidly. So one has to be aware of this as well. So to summarize it, leadership, skill development around 3 pillars, data, security, and privacy, and bringing along the entire organization in the journey in an agile and a planful manner is very important. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Murali, for this listing the skills that require. And I can add also the importance of the data itself. I think that even in the leadership for this, or we can call it a digital leadership, to feel the importance of the digital era. Coming again to Mr. Francis, do we have here in Oman any strategy to work with the data, or any governance for this, especially in oil and gas?
Well, I think in terms of strategy, again, going back to the PDO example, what they've done extremely well is always focus on the long term. If there's one takeaway that I would like to share with everyone, is really always that perspective. We have management elements that will come and go through time. You have digitalization professionals that will come in and try to implement different solutions and different approaches. But in my experience, they'll always be focusing on the short-term wins, or quick wins, if you will, easy solutions that can solve problems immediately without having to invest too much and think too much on the long term. And to me, most of the winners in this race to digitalization and to different initiatives to move towards new technology are always those that look at the bigger picture and are willing to be patient and take the long-term approach.
Thank you very much. We know that before adopt any technology, especially in this area, in 4IR technologies, that building a strategy is the main thing, the first pillar that to do it. Before that, creating the opportunities, or as you said, that making the trial environment for that, educate people, and then adopt the technologies. This is the circle of four or five pillars that required for adopting any technologies, because any technologies is coming in the environment, it will change five main things. For this big data, yes, why we call it as a technology, and what the strategy that, let us see Mr. Cecil in these questions, what strategies an organization can deploy to integrate digital assets with AI or machine learning, artificial intelligence, machine learning technologies to realize the value of this one?
Yeah, thank you. That's a very good question, right? This is where the world is evolving into. Having a strategy of how do we implement big data, AI, machine learning, everything. But before that, I just want to make a quick comment on your tangible and intangible assets, right? We talked about intangible assets as digital assets. I don't know how many of you heard about it. The world has evolved into digital twins. What it means, the tangible assets you're talking about, your physical assets like buildings, equipments, everything can be mapped to a digital twins, and digital replica of those real world things can be monitored, including maintenance of those equipment, predictive maintenance, prescriptive, a prediction before the equipment or something fails. So just keep in mind, the world is evolving into integrating the physical and the virtual world, right? I just want to make sure that that evolution or the transformation is happening, especially in fourth industrial revolution era, right? That's one important thing. As far as the strategies are concerned, someone talked about Oman is shaping up or picking up in terms of implementing the big data technologies and all those things. Fundamentally, you have to understand, is the organization is ready for innovation, right? What's your vision? The vision has to be top down. If you don't have the vision of transformation, if you are not thinking about innovation and promoting the culture of innovation, whatever strategy you have may or may not work, right? So the idea is, how do you want to drive the transformation, especially digital transformation you're talking about? How can we accelerate product to market? And you can have this data strategy across different areas, right? Whether you can completely run your solutions, data lake on-premise, you can also run it as a hybrid model. You can drive those platforms and technologies, implement them in cloud or even multi-cloud. So those are the areas you should be thinking about. What's my core vision? Do I have the enough capabilities and skill sets to implement it? And is the market is prime and ready? Number two will be, and Murali, I would like to get your comments too, capacity building, right? You talked about skill development. Do we have enough engineering talent in the organization, right? That's going to define whether you're going to be successful or not. There is a model that you can leverage, is whether you want to buy or build, right? You can buy to build these capabilities. Remember, vision is important, but if you need to have the capability, you need to build capacity. You can't have the old way of running the show. It cannot be traditional business intelligence. You have to start thinking about machine learning, artificial intelligence, cognitive intelligence, and all those things. It's not easy to find the data scientist either. So how do we leverage this automated machine learning model, democratization of data science, to make sure that your business analysts also can run the show? So having the vision, making sure you have the capacity, and most importantly, the culture, right? I would emphasize on the culture multiple times. Don't be afraid to fail. If you are not able to promote innovation within your organization, right, and let them fail fast, what we call in Microsoft, right? That means that they're always going to be afraid of not taking the risk. If somebody is not taking the risk, they're not going to innovate. So as a leader, the vision has to come top down. Make sure you fund this innovation. Guess what? If you're not doing it, somebody else is doing it. Your competition is doing it. You won't be in the market for a long time, right? So This is a brutal truth. It's how it's shaping up. Make sure the culture plays an important role and nurture the talent. Pilot. The strategy should not to launch a spaceship. Don't think about spaceship. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon, right? Take one step at a time and build the capabilities, run the pilot, create the quick wins, evangelize across the companies, share the best practices, right? All these things are so important if you want to succeed. Again, you can buy, you can build. Build takes a long time in this digital era because there's not enough skill set and capabilities available. But you can follow this vision, capability, culture, everything. So hope that makes sense.
Thank you, Mr. Cecil. Mr. Cecil, as you are a director of data and cloud, Microsoft USA, of course, because you are in Microsoft, you feel that the data is an asset with you. So
asset
can
for
you
everybody. Yeah.
tell us from your side, and the value of this data in your company? Are you really gaining a benefit from this data commercially? This is apart from this discussion.
No, absolutely fantastic question, right? So what we are advocating, we're evangelizing is how do you monetize these data assets, right? So if you think about all the social media networks, what they're doing, by the way, Tesla has the largest footprint mapping of data of every single person drives a car, where you go, how you want. It's a question of time they have to monetize, right? So say Facebook has started monetizing, especially to your question. We don't generally monetize. We don't make, we don't grow top line revenue based on the data we have from the customers. That's not our business model, right? But organization that has the customer data, we talked about audio, the call centers. If you have the customer data, you have the you have the capability to gain significant insights about the customer using speech to text analytics and AI models to understand the customer intent and upsell and cross-sell. But none of the organization, I would put it this way, maybe 10% of organization is monetizing the data asset. Some of them don't even know what data exists. So that's the truth. I've been in this industry far enough to understand probably all these digital assets you're talking about, we have to start thinking about gaining insights and intelligence from these assets, and then ability to serve internal customer as well as external customers. Take it 10%, maybe 10% of the companies are probably doing it, maybe less than 10 in my mind. Yeah.
Thank you very much for this. Thank you for this information. Yes, as Mr. Murali said that regarding the security, it's an issue because even with tangible things, it's exposed to be stolen anytime. Also for intangible things, it's also exposed to be breached or breached or hacked at any time and steal the data. So there is a security issue. Even last week, I think we have read even the Tesla company has been attacked. It's a Tesla system has been attacked by someone. Even the users of the Tesla, they face some difficulties. So whether this is true or not, but we read it. Anyway, Mr. Rami, in the same circle for the security, how to secure the digital assets and what are the security standards that governs them as an enterprise asset?
Yes, thank you. As you know, as long as information, and this is digital assets, okay, under category of asset, so it should be secured, okay, because it's coming an asset for any entity and it's valuable for them. Today, as all of you know, digital assets, or let's talk about the data in practice, it's worth valuable and tangible, wealthy for any organization. Because they are processing this information, they are using this information to build their business strategy, if we are talking about business, okay? So security architecture here it's playing a very important role to cover all the angles, to govern the value of these assets. So here, let's understand and go deeply. Before we establish the security architecture, here we need to identify the type of information that we have. So information classification, it should be under different categories. Okay, we need to label our information. What information we treat it as a confidential, information to be treated as a security, secrets between within the organization, even the entity itself, to whom should be shared, to whom it should be accessed, can be modified. So labeling information is very important to put it in the right corner or in the right box, and we need to secure that box. Okay, so we need to understand here also what should be secure. Shall, as I am a company, invest a huge solution to secure my information just as a security? So building a technology or building the architecture is based on this digital assets. What value I can expect from them? What is the disaster happen of this information breach, for example? So there are many solutions as long these information are expanding and value for the enterprise itself, the solution become more complex in different level. So here, the first advice, okay, for any site or any entity, security awareness, it should be engaged from time to time, because sometimes the threats coming from internal, the organization, before it's coming from external, because we are opening that gap to the external to breach you. So we need to educate. The education is not coming number one, okay, for leverage the security. So doing multiple sessions, explain to the end user about the security information, how to use the technology they are using, from email communication, the entire software, the business application itself. You need to educate the people before you control them. Okay, so here the education is become number one, how to treat and manipulate with this digital asset. Then we come to the next level to put the control in your information. So I should understand what the right tool and the right solution that I am implementing based on the information type. If I am communicating with external party, how I control or secure that channel? Okay, what type of solution I should build that? Is my communication with him through emails? So I need to secure my email. There is different level in security. Is my email in cloud or on a premise? So there is solution for every place. Also, if I am having a portal and I'm sharing information through that portal, is there is any download? Is there is any access in the original information? So here there are multiple layers. As Cecil from cloud solution provider, Microsoft in Azure, there are a complex design in the cloud solution. Before you are accessing the information over cloud, there are multiple channels, VPNs to firewall, virtual servers, server farm, terminal services. He might explain that better than me. So they are a complex solution, a complex design just to secure today our assets. So classification of your information is very important. You need to label your information. What should be shared? What should be just for information? Who can access this information? Are they allowed to edit this information or not? Okay. Today we have a very advanced technology, even through email. If that your information is labeled, the receiver cannot edit it, or one of the in the CC cannot view it or cannot download it. But some of them, they can have full access of that one. So privileged access management is a complex rule. We need to identify it and design it well. I can call security as an art, okay, in controlling your assets. So how you design it, how you draw the right model for the security, the right channel for that one. So understanding your asset is very important before you implement the right tool to it. As we know today, the vendor is more their concern how to sell for you the solution. But you, as you are the owner and the stakeholder for that asset, you are the one can understand what is better for your information. For example, if today we need to build a malware protection, okay, depend also on the organization. Is this malware will be protection inside on a premise or over cloud? We have also today, we are leveraging AI in malware protection, such like ATP, Advanced Threat Protection, okay, to understand from where the threat's coming from which location, which area. For example, you are accessing your mailbox in Oman. After 10 minutes, you have the same access in the same account from UK. So it is suspicious, okay, suspicious access. So how the normal tools can understand that. So even now the tools has become more advanced that they can capture these threats that somebody tried to access your information from different in short time. Okay, so security is a very deep formula you cannot cover it in one session or different sessions. So here, what I advise, we are, as a user, as an employee, we are the gardener for this information. So awarenesses, education, let the user from time to time, we have multiple sessions about the security, about the latest threats, what we have, update. We can use enterprise social medias, okay, from email, from portals, about the new threats coming in the market and how the user can deal with it. Not to share any input, not to open any suspicious attachment. So here we need to govern and understand our assets very well, because it might end in a huge disaster, a huge loss. And you see the example, simple ransomware, okay, in last year, how much cost for all the organization in entire globe. And the threat is developed itself by itself from time to time. You build a protection, he developed himself for how to threat and breach this protection. So protection is continuous. We cannot say I am secured in any organization. So you need also to follow about the threats, understand your threats, okay, so you can implement and update your system. So it's a very complex and very important aspects, okay. We need to look to it carefully. We need to understand it. We need to secure our information. As Cecily and Mr. Murali explained, okay, today we have a multiple type of information. Either it's a structured, unstructured, different format. The big data today are expanding. So how to explain, how to secure this big data? Okay, in every few seconds you get the new information, a new type of data. So you need to keep yourself up to date to secure your assets.
Mr. Rami, do you think there is a complete and ultimate solution for this issue?
Up to now, I don't believe that we can say we have a complete solution. Okay, threats always updating itself, as I explained. As long you are implement a system, there is a breach for that one. So I believe the better way is awarenesses, the education before you control. So you should, before you build your solution system, Okay, from yourself, from inside, you should know how to protect your asset.
Thank you very much. Mr. Murali, because regarding the education, because last time you listed, on the last question, you listed the difficulties or the critical skills it's required. And one of them is education. So education is skill required, but it's also a difficulty for the companies. So because most of the leaders now, and I can say that in digital transformation era, they would like to drive the organization fastly. So what tools and capability they require to do this fast?
Thank you, Doctor. As Rami was mentioning as well, with respect to security and threats are evolving, education becomes important. The way I think about education is really about continuous learning, because most of us had trained ourselves or educated ourselves for many years in schools and colleges. We graduate, we find opportunities to join the workforce, and then sometimes we think we have to stop learning. The reality is there are innovators out there who continue to invent new technologies. There are further innovators, call it hackers, who are innovating new threats to take down the data and the security walls that we erect. So it's really important to embrace the culture of continuous learning. And the continuous learning culture is, again, top to bottom, the leaders to the individuals in the organization. Learning is not one-sided. It doesn't go from top to bottom or bottom to up. It's all people involved as well. So that's part of the area that I have been focused on. I've spent 25 years building large-scale, computing software, data software, e-commerce software. And one of the things that I repeatedly came to was this notion of I need to prepare my teams to be aware of the evolving technologies and the methods and the processes that are involved. And so if leaders embrace the mindset to learn, and as was called out by Cecil earlier, be willing to build a culture that allows for failures. Because as we imagine a child starting to learn and they learning to walk, we all stumble, and then we learn our way to walk and run and the likes of it. So same applies for when we face new technologies. Digital transformation is about adopting new technologies to accelerate your business results. So in that context, every adoption is a learning journey. Every adoption exposes us to some failures. So we have to learn from that failures, and build up the culture towards forward-looking progress. And the last leg of this continuous learning is about allowing for education to happen not only from internal sources, but also coming from external sources. Because as Rami and Cecil were talking about, and also the talk about the video intelligence, multiple companies, multiple organizations are finding new technologies, new artificial intelligence algorithms are evolving. So exposing ourselves to what is going on in the industry and the market is very important. Be it you are an oil and gas company, or be it you're a finance company, there is a lot to be learned from how a retail business is operating. Look at Amazon. It started a journey of a retail business, and it significantly built a data-driven culture in terms of building the strength for becoming a global business. So that's the last leg, continuous learning, be able to build a culture of failure to learn from. And third, expose yourself to external sources.
There is a competency issue now. We know that in what they are facing, the private and public sectors, they are facing challenges to keep the qualified people in their command. They are investing lots of money to educate them, to qualify them. But after some time, they will quit the company or the organization, either in the public or in the private. So either for getting better offer or for relaxing or for whatever the reason. Even here in Oman, we have this, I think we have this issue. We are facing this issue even here in Oman. So in 1 minute or less than 1 minute, if there is anything the company can do to keep this qualified or to keep these skills in their premises?
You can pay them more, triple times. I'm just teasing.
We have economical issue, global economical issue now.
Yeah. So let me tell them.
We are not in Microsoft.
What I was trying to tell, you don't have to solve all the problem by yourself. So let's talk about threat protection, right?
In half a minute.
Half a minute. So the cloud companies, cloud leaders would know how to solve for that, right? The other thing you want to also think about, you cannot rely on legacy technologies. You can buy. I mentioned buy versus build. There is a possibility of you buying. The talent pool is there everywhere, but there is some optimal talent pools across the globe somewhere hidden. So you should. It's a digital world. You don't need to have people inside the organization to run the show. So think about distributed buying across for this talent. So that will be my closing comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we close the session, maybe in the audience, if they have any questions or would like to ask panelists any question.
Thank you so much. In fact, I do not have a question. I just want to add to what was asked right now about how can we accelerate the digital transformation. In fact, digital transformation, there is low code, no code platforms that have been evolved recently. And once the organizations will adopt those low code, no code platforms, the digital transformation will accelerate by itself. And retention retaining the skill set, of course, now the trends have changed. We can have offshore skill sets which are available to develop such kind of technologies. And we don't need to rely on the technologies that we develop in-house. We can, of course, outsource them. And with the passage of time, they get evolved. So technology doesn't need to be implemented within the organization. As we can see that cloud is trendy these days, and cloud has evolved in such that it's not only the platform as a service or infrastructure as a service or software as a service. It's everything as a service now, be it a big data, AI, ML, ERPs, business intelligence, or name anything, you can have it. And together with this, even the threat management, the firewalls and the traditional firewalls that we were having to secure our data on our premises. Now, once the organizations are moving to cloud, SASE has been implemented where identity access management and even the threat management is considered for securing your information assets as well. So these were my points. In fact, retaining the staff that you mentioned earlier, that how can you retain the skill set? We need to also see that is our organization fit for the youth which is going to come in next 20 years to our organization? And we also need to see, is the youth also equipped to fit into our organizations? Because Industry 4.0 is going to totally change everything. The skill sets that organization will also need to change, and the youth who is getting qualified from the universities and colleges, they will also need a platform to start working in those organizations. So it is both ways. Actually, the organization also need to think about the digital transformation, as well as our universities, colleges, or education sector also need to think how they can develop the skills of their youth.
Thank you very much for your valuable addition. In fact, I like this low code, no code platform. I think there will be a session today, is a no code approach to machine learning. Is it a session or Q&A? It is a session because it's written there Q&A. Yeah, because it's only given 20 minutes. 20 minutes. From 4:20 to 4:40. What time? Okay. So that's a good one. Any other question, other addition?
Yeah, so your last question about how do we build the capability. Yes, attrition is a challenge. However, I've seen working with global companies in global various countries, different countries have approached the problem differently. One approach that is working out in some countries is where the country government or the local government is actually empowering the organizations to support a level of training and education, right, through R&D credits or human capital management credits. In fact, World Bank is supportive of that model as well. And that raises the level of competence across every organization in that particular country or the particular region, and which benefits not only a single company, benefits every company in that ecosystem as well. So that's another approach that's been attempted, and it's starting to produce some positive results.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think it is the end of the session. Before we end, we would like to thank on behalf of all of you organizers, all the panelists from overseas. Thank you, all of you, for attending and listening to this discussion.
Thank you for having us. Yeah.
Thank you very much.